Hello, I'm Dr. Patrice Berry, and here I share educational videos on a variety of topics. Today, I want to talk a little bit about managing anxiety. My reference for a lot of this will come from the work of Dr. Reid and Dr. Lynn Lyons. They wrote a book called Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents, and Dr. Reid also wrote a book called Stopping the Noise in Your Head. So I want to start this with a story of how I got to kind of change how I approach anxiety in my own life and how I now teach anxiety management differently after attending a Lynn Lyons workshop. So I was at a conference and I was actually scheduled to see one person speak, and there was audio issues and I wasn't getting anything out of it. And so I decided to switch. It was only 5-10 minutes into the presentations. So I decided to switch and go to a talk about how to help kids and families better manage anxiety. It was being taught by Dr. Lynn Lyons, and she's a great speaker. She was very energetic, and the stories she told were great. And a lot of what she was saying resonated with what I experienced within my own practice. That typically, when I meet an anxious child, there's almost always an anxious parent. Really, always there's an anxious parent. Anxiety can present in different ways, where anxiety can show up as a very angry parent or very angry child. Anxiety can show up as kind of a lazy, not motivated, kind of disconnected parent or child. Anxiety can also be the kind of anxious energy, just like very hyper-focused. It can also present in a very like in-your-face type of way. And I really liked how she focused on not coddling anxiety. So in a lot of my work before her talk, I had written letters about helping kids get out of PE or get out of situations that made them anxious. And she really talked about how this does a disservice to the child. Yes, they get to escape that one thing that caused them some distress, but it doesn't teach them skills for how to better manage anxiety when something else comes up. And so with Reid, I'm going to link some videos because he has some great videos that really go into how you can stop the noise in your head, especially for adults, and how you can tell the difference between noise and signals. And how he defines it is noise is just those unhelpful, obnoxious thoughts that anxiety kind of creates, where if I'm about to do something new, anxiety might be like, what if this, and what if that, and what if this, and what if that? It's just noise. It's just distracting, and it's not particularly helpful. Whereas a signal might be, if I'm about to go on a job interview, that might be saying, oh, make sure that you check to make sure that your shirt is ironed. Well, that's helpful. That's a helpful thought. Or make sure that you know the interviewer's name, or make sure that you print out your resume. Like a signal kind of motivates you to action, whereas noise just gets you to want to stop and maybe not do the thing that you're going towards. And so noise would be going into a job interview thinking, oh, you're so silly, like you're never gonna do this, like you're not there, how are they ever gonna hire you? That's just noise. And they really talk about how to encourage kids to talk back to anxiety, and then also the adults have to model that as well, that when anxious thoughts come, to be able to talk back and know, oh, that's just noise. They encourage naming anxiety, to take it outside of yourself, because often people who experience anxiety, and they've had anxiety for most of their lives, it's often this friend that's kind of always been there. And sometimes anxious thoughts, they kind of take those on as being their own thoughts, and being able to separate what it is you want as a person and how is anxiety getting in your way of getting to what you want to do. Because if I'm working with someone that's deathly terrified of PE, well, maybe they really like playing basketball. Maybe they'd like to engage in the same activity like all their other peers, but anxiety is keeping them from going into a situation that might be embarrassing or that might kind of bring up some negative emotions. And so they do a lot of work to do psychoeducation, which is just give you information about what anxiety does in your body, knowing how it shows up for you, so that when it shows up, you're able to, all right, that's anxiety, and then you can have a plan for how you talk back to it, for how you might even make yourself uncomfortable on purpose, because anxiety wants certainty, it wants to be comfortable, and it wants to know. And that kind of goes along with the certainty. Like it wants things its way. It very much wants control. And anxiety says, hey, if you just do what I say, if you just don't go and do that thing, or if you avoid this, or if you don't go to this place, then I won't bother you. Which works for a time, but it can, because let's say a person is really afraid of flying, but they really want to go visit someone over in another country, and really the best way to get there is to fly. That can keep them from reaching certain goals. Maybe there are certain jobs that they can't have because of that fear, because of that. This approach has you talk back to it and get control back of your own life. And why this is important for parents is that parents, especially a parent that has anxiety, they typically don't want their child to experience the same thing they've experienced, because often they know exactly what that child is feeling and they just want to take that away. And so often the parent will become the thing that the child needs to calm down. The parent will help them calm down in those moments instead of encouraging the child to use skills to be able to talk back to it on their own. And so an example that they give is if a child is having anxiety about getting on the bus, they might say, all right, so that sounds like anxiety. What's something that you could say back to anxiety? And so it's not leaving them out there on their own. It's still being a support, but helping them use their own tools, use their own resources without the parent having to be the one that's always walking them through their process, where they never internalize how they manage their own emotions. There is a free book for kids called Playing with Anxiety, and I will link that down in the description box. I'll also link the Stopping the Noise in Your Head and the Anxious Kids, Anxious Parents books. I really wanted this to just be a quick video on a different approach, how you can not coddle anxiety, how you can talk back to it and raise kids, be a family that is resilient and has some courage. And I will make a special note that with COVID, because there's a difference between an irrational fear and a pandemic. And that's where sometimes if someone is having significant struggles, they might need to partner with a therapist if things are getting in their way, if there are major emotions that they're just not able to cope with, they might need a therapist to kind of help them walk through managing some of these things. If you like this content, you can like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this content and it was helpful in some way. I will link some resources. I've been dubbed the Resource Queen. I have a ton of different things, both on my Instagram, Facebook page, and also within my Facebook group that I share on these types of topics. And so if you'd like to join me on those platforms, you can do that as well. I will put those links down on the YouTube channel as well. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.